Hello, everyone. Charles Folkart here. It's November 30th, 2016. Welcome. You know, a lot of you are probably like me. I get tired of not having an effective way to get back at the government. The government has been doing wrong to us all of my life. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. They do a little bit wrong, and then they do a little more wrong, and then they do a little more wrong, and we just accept it because what can one individual do? And you noticed in the campaign that we just endured, like we have to every 4 years. The candidate that won says he's going to bring back jobs to America and make America great again. And he's got his ideas. And he's going to reduce the taxes on the corporations so the corporations will come back to the United States. But you know, one thing I never hear those in power saying, you know what, you guys are paying too much federal income tax, so we're going to cut your federal income tax rate. Well, I take that back. I think I did hear Trump was going to reduce the tax rate. But you know what? That's not enough. It's an illegal tax. You shouldn't have to pay any federal income tax on your income. Income is not taxable. It doesn't apply to employees. And the government wastes the money. Some of you are going to say, oh, well, what's the government going to do without all those tax reforms? You know what? That's their problem. What are you going to do with not having enough income to meet the bills? Let the government print the money up that they lose from the income tax, just like they printed the money up. They created the money out of thin air to give it to the bankers to save their ass. All right? There's agency after agency after agency in the federal government that could be eliminated, and they would be if they didn't take our money. All right? There's no excuses for us to not be paying income tax. And you know, the federal income tax is illegal. It's unconstitutional, and that's been well known by many of us for a long, long time. So you think about it, we've got the tools that we need now to fight back as a whole, as a group. And it's the productive white people in this country that make things happen. We're the ones that are paying the bills. We're the ones with the jobs, the JOBs, the just over broke. Aren't you tired of being just over broke? You know, as the government takes money out of your check so that you don't have to do it yourself, they're very clever at what they do. They take, it's only a little bit at first, they get it in there, 1%, and only over people that are making, you know, a lot of money, so it's no big deal. And then little by little, everybody's paying a tax, and everybody is paying the illegal tax, and everybody has less and less money. There's something today that we didn't have when I was younger, and I'll get to that in a moment. Just think what could happen, or how your household would be improved, and you would have a better life if you just had more of the money, more of the earnings that you're working hard for. You got to keep it. And you didn't have your employer, or if you're self-employed, every 3 months have to send off your quarterly report, your estimated taxes, to the government so they can blow it. They waste more money than you can imagine. How would your household be if you did not have to pay federal income tax? How much more money would you have every year? So that's the first question. The second question, are you willing to do what's necessary so that you don't have to pay federal income tax? Remember, it's illegal and unconstitutional to begin with, and you can do a search. I'm not going to do your homework for you. You go out there and find it out. It's all over the place. The IRS themselves, their agents admit the federal income tax is unconstitutional and illegal. So if you want to pause the video and go look and come back so you can understand where I'm coming from here. When I was younger, I realized with my background in economics, I was interested in money and the federal income tax and the Social Security tax, and I realized that come April, when I finally got to add up my whole year's income and revenue, and after I paid all the expenses, hey, I didn't do too bad. I worked hard for it, and actually I was making pretty good money. But then guess what? April 15th come around, and all that profit and all that work that I had done, ship it off to the federal government so they could waste it. I mean, we don't need to go into that. I think we pretty much agree that the government wastes our money, and they never cut back. Ronald Reagan said he was going to eliminate the Department of Education. We could talk about the space program, which, if the world is not a spinning spear, is nothing more than a hoax. $18 billion a year hoax. NASA is nothing more than an $18 billion, I think it's $19 billion a year hoax. So all of those people are making big bucks, those, quote, scientists with their white coats on. They're all making big money while you're down at the local Lowe's or Home Depot or Target or Walmart making just enough money to scrape by, or you're a clerk somewhere, and the government employees are making more money than you do in the private sector. But to get back to my point, it's the white productive people in this country that keeps things going. If there was a way for you to participate in I'm going to call it a strike. I'm going to call it a work strike. Or we'll have to think about this. You can put it in the comments. We can work out the specifics. So here's my idea. We've now got social media tools that we can use in our favor. When I was younger, the only way to connect with other people really was on the phone or through the mail or a newsletter or letters to the editor. We didn't have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these other instant connection with other people. So let's just say for a moment that 10 million Americans, 10 million white Americans, or 15 million, or however many it is, all decided that on a particular day in the future, they weren't going to go to work. They were going to stay home. They were going to go on strike. And what they want what we want is we want the elimination of the federal income tax for all employees. No more money going to the federal government out of your check. You say, oh, that's ridiculous. That'll never happen. Yes, it could happen. If enough Americans decided to work together as a whole, we the people, as it's often expressed, and you decided as a whole, and you connected and you use social media to organize the strike, And I would suggest perhaps April 15th would be a good day, that you're not going to go to work and you want the federal government, you want Mr. President Trump to eliminate the federal income tax. It's no longer, tax is no longer taken out of your check. You know, the government likes to tell us that 70% of our economy is based on consumers spending. We don't produce anything anymore, so they got to come up with a new an idea, and they try to make us believe that that our economy is run on because of our spending. Okay, well let's just use that. So what you're telling the government is, you know what, you're right. It's the economy is 70% based on spending, consumer spending, and you want us to spend. Well, guess what? We don't have enough money to spend because you take too much of it. So we're going to go on a strike April 15th, and we want you to eliminate the federal income tax. And if you don't do it on April 15th, if you don't hear us, 1-day strike was going to turn into a 3-day strike. And if that doesn't work, a 3-day strike is going to turn into a week strike. Now people are going to say, oh, come on, Charles, I don't even have enough money. If I lose out on 3 days worth of work or even 1 day worth of work, I'm in trouble. Well, you know what? All the more reason for you to do this. All the more reason for you to work together with your other Americans in this nation and demand the federal government stop taking the federal income tax out of your check. And if we put the date of the general strike far enough into the future, April 15th, for example, then you can start to save some money so that you'll be able to make it through however long it's going to take. And you should be already cutting back on your unnecessary expenses. You know, you're fooled into thinking that you're going to be happy if you buy that new truck, or you get that new car, or you buy this new toy, or you get this and you get that. You know what? Happiness is not in the amount of things that you have. And you're going to have to learn that. But I'm telling you, I've had all the toys, and I won't go into that. The way our system is set up is that you're on a treadmill, and you're going and going and going and going. And some of you have wall paneling on your in the room your treadmill's in, and you've got the plush chairs and the good decor, and you've got the nice secretary, and everything's so cool, and you got to make an appointment. But you know what? You're on a treadmill. You're on a treadmill, and you're a slave to a job you probably don't like, whether you're an attorney, a doctor, or whatever. And I tell you what, it's a lot more interesting life when you got a lot of free time. You know what? When I worked in Korea, I had 1 month off with pay every 6 months. I had 2 months off a year with pay. And I got to go on during that time all over Asia on vacation for a month at a time. Americans are lucky if they get 2 weeks. And, a life is a lot better when you don't have to work so much. And if the government wasn't taking so much of your money, you wouldn't have to work so much, would you? And if you realize that buying that new truck or moving into that bigger house, or getting that four-wheeler, or making that payment on whatever, is not going to make you any happier, and you're a slave to your job. Back to my point, we could stop complaining and stop whining. I get tired of listening to people whine and complain, and then I ask them, well, what are you doing about it? And most people don't do anything, and then once you mention that, they don't want to talk to you anymore. Because when you get right down to it, folks, we're all slaves. We really don't want to do anything about it, but this would be an opportunity for us as a group, the productive white people in this nation, to say, we're taking control of our lives again. We're giving the government, you criminals that don't follow the rule of law, that waste millions and billions of dollars while you want us to turn off the lights and use all these energy saving devices, when you waste millions of dollars a day all over this country, and you're allowing stuff to go on that shouldn't be going on. We're going to take control back. We ourselves, we're not going to depend on the politicians to do it, because they never will. They never, ever, ever will. We're going to have to do it, and this is one way we could do it. It is doable, but we're going to have to get a large number of people working together. I would suggest we start out with one day, make it far enough into the future so you can plan, and then get everybody working, productive white Americans to say, okay, on that day, that's the no tax day, no more tax day. And I'm not going to work on that day, just to get the point across. We're the productive ones. You need us. We don't need you. And here's the evidence. Like I said earlier, if that one day doesn't work, then we make it 3 days. And if 3 days doesn't work, then we make it a whole week. So, yeah, or we can just continue to complain and moan and bitch about how the government's doing this and the government's doing that, and they're not doing this and that and the other thing. Well, we have an opportunity, and we have the tools to do this. So if we don't do it, we have only ourselves to blame. I wish you the best. I thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for subscribing. See you.